Please, speak freely.
Welcome to the Podcast of Boba Fett, the Explosion Network's after show breaking down, discussing, and reviewing each episode of Disney Plus original series, The Book of Boba Fett. My name's Dylan Blight. Joining me, Ashley Hopley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here for The Mandalorian Chapter 3.
I mean, no, I was gonna make a joke about it being the Tusken Raider origin, history part 3 or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
get a little bit of that in each season, apparently. So of course, the first episode of the brand new Star Wars series, which is all about Boba Fett, but it's also technically, I guess, a spin-off of The Mandalorian. Slash, I guess, if you watch this randomly, and you have Slash is a spin-off of Star Wars, yeah. But it's like really weird. Like straight out the gate, I'm like, oh man, like if you didn't care to watch The Mandalorian, but you're like, oh, I love Boba Fett. You start this, you're like, wait, like I almost felt like they should have just replayed that 30-second clip from the end of like the after credit scene. But anyway,
yeah.
This episode, Chapter 1. I'm glad they kept the chapters thing. Chapter 1, a stranger in a stranger land.
You call the show The Book of Boba Fett. If you don't call them chapters,
yeah,
that you fucked up.
It probably deserves chapters more than Mandalorian does, I guess. Directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by Jon Favreau.
Okay.
That was the... I don't know if Rob Rodriguez has 100% directed every episode. We will find out.
So I'm looking at Wikipedia. It says Robert Rodriguez directed 2 episodes with Jon Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, Dave Filoni, Steph Green, and Kevin Tancarone also reported to have directed episodes.
Oh, is that is that 100% or just like we're pretty sure? Because I don't recall them announcing anything.
The source is Screen Rant, so I don't. That's not exactly.
We'll give it a flip of the coin on that one. Yeah.
Who do they source though? That's
yeah. Synopsis for this premiere episode was pretty boring. Boba Fett holds court.
Man,
does he though?
Don't you just love this Disney Star Wars episode synopsises? Yeah,
they're fucking terrible. Sometimes they do update them, like maybe if I come back a month from now. But all right. Overall thoughts on the premiere episode of the Book of Boba Fett, Ash?
It is a solid, mid-season episode. I think this is a very bad episode for someone who loves Boba Fett and is just coming to this. This is the first thing they've seen of the live-action Disney. It's a pretty bad introduction, I think. If you didn't watch the last 30 seconds, if they didn't include that last 30-second clip, you wouldn't know what was going on in this. But yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's pretty clear from this episode what we're going to get for the season. We're going to get large amounts of flashbacks to before the event where we see him in The Mandalorian. And then also intercut with him trying to be the crime lord of Tatooine, taking over from Bib Fortuna and Jabba the Hutt. So, it's an odd one, I think, more than anything else. Especially with it being so short, only 30-something minutes. But yeah, there's some good action scenes. There's some interesting creature design, and like you said, they're kind of. Jon Favreau is he really likes the Tusken Raiders. Lots of building them up is more than just is people taking pot shots at pod races and stuff.
I joke about it, but I'll say I've spoken about already how I enjoy that stuff. So I enjoy this, but for anyone else who hated that stuff in previous seasons,
I mean, I look forward to it becoming a whole Pocahontas type story where the foreigner comes in, integrates
saves
into the society, and then becomes the
Tusken Raider
Maori savior.
Yeah,
human savior, I guess would be the correct.
Yeah, I guess.
this iteration. Yeah.
Clone savior.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I think I'm of two minds because of like just as like a Star Wars fan, I'm like, oh cool, Star Wars is back. So like I just enjoy having something to watch. But like as an episode, I'm just like, yeah, it was fine. You know what I mean?
It's it's a weird choice.
Yeah, I'm like, I got Star. At least I'm like, it was Star Wars. Like I've been watching Star Wars, so that's gonna make me happy to a degree usually. But otherwise, I'm like, that was an okay episode. It just has me wondering why, unlike other times, like why didn't they do the 2-episode drop that they usually do to sort of satiate audiences and give a better idea of like what the show's going to be? Like only having, especially because it's not an hour long. Like if this episode had been an hour long premiere, you'd be like,
did Mandalorian drop the first episode or the first 2 episodes? I can't remember.
I think it was just the first, but it was like 55 minutes. Remember, season 2 was 55.
No,
minutes.
I'm thinking of season 1.
Season 1 was 2 episodes, wasn't it?
No, the second episode came out like 3 days later. Apparently, there must have been some event.
Ah, 3. That's right, 3 days. Yeah, but by the time we
that's right. The first episode came with the first episode was there at launch in America, and then by the time
by the time we got it, we got to watch both in a row. So it felt like they were both there from
that's true.
The get go, which is as close to saying that they were both there. Like they still had 2 episodes. Like for most, like Americans had to wait a couple days. We got them both. Then season 2, they had an hour-long premiere. This, they've got a 30-minute episode. Yeah, so it's interesting, but whatever. I'm like of two minds for a lot of stuff that happens in this episode. Like I think when we talked about the trailer, I was like, oh man, I hope they get the whole how do you survive the Sarlacc pit even. Sarlacc pit thing out of the way quickly so we can just sort of move on, which they do, but then proceed to spend the rest of the episode on like what happens after.
Yeah, they got that bit out of the way, but then
they're really like, oh, they don't even fuck around. They're just like, crawled out, got some air, burned his way out of there. I'm like, all right, what's happening now? And they're like, no. And then his armor got stolen. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fair. We have to see that, I suppose. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so we get
cool.
Timothy Oliphant in it later. Yeah,
and then he's left there. I'm like, okay, like are we going back to the real time now? And they're like, no. Then the Tusken Raider show. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then we keep going. I'm like, all right, we're doing a whole Tusken Raiders episode thing.
Yeah, that's true. I would be interested to see how long they stick with the framing device of him only having flashbacks when he's in this healing tank.
He's in the back to tank.
Yeah, so he's just going to get beat up every single episode. Is that the?
Is it? And then I'm kind of all over the place, which is fine.
Yeah,
I had notes, but fuck them. The back to tank, like the fact that he says about the dreams are back. Plus, he's in a back to tank at the start of this episode, and he hasn't even been in a fight. So it sort of implies that he now needs a back to tank to
survive. Like
survive.
Yeah. Maybe, his cloning is finally coming to its end.
Well, no, because he was supposed. So he's a clone that ages at a normal rate. He was just a straight up clone, whereas the other clones are not.
Maybe he's got cancer. I don't know.
Wow, you really it's fucking hell. Took that to a whole different side of the ballgame.
It's got Sarlacc pit poisoning. Doesn't kill you straight away. Kills you over time.
That could be a thing. Like, that could be a legit thing. And I'll be like, all right, sure, whatever. But also, yeah, it's just interesting that he's in that at the start of the episode. I'm going to get out of the way right now and say, as much as I enjoyed sort of seeing a bit more Tusken Raider, like, just
society and
delving in,
stuff.
Like society and stuff, and I find that sort of stuff interesting to a degree. Even I, by the end of this episode, was like, "There was a lot, wasn't it?" Like, there was a whole episode.
Pretty heavy.
it was a lot of stuff.
It was. I think the other thing is, it was trying to have both. It was trying to have the obviously the present, and then having section of the past. It's like, just commit to one.
It wasn't even. It was like 70%,
it was very uneven.
70% flashbacks, 30% real world or present day.
Yeah,
I guess is how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I'll get to the present day. I was just get all the fucking past shit out of the way, I guess, the flashback stuff. The other thing that I have, like, so by the end of the episode, he's now, after fighting Goro, he now has, what do you what do we call it?
I don't know. It's an interesting design. It's almost like at first you think it's like some sort of scorpion or like some sort of bug creature, but then it like gets up on like hind legs and it's almost like a centaur. It's weird.
Yeah.
But yes, Goro is appropriate.
It looks exactly like Goro.
Especially with the way it's first introduced with that. Like the 3-fingered hands, which I'm pretty sure is Goro has, yeah.
Goro gets his head chopped off, earns the respect of the Tusken Raider family or whatever.
Yeah, he learns the respect of the leader guy who realizes the kid didn't kill it.
No, he's like, you didn't do shit. So I'm like, okay, well, what happens now? We're going to continue seeing flashbacks of him like going off world to another planet, him trying to get off world, how he ends up back there by the time we've like, do I need to see all that? Do I really care? Probably not. Although there is an interesting thing that they do set up and sort of tease, which is that technically we do also see a flashback Attack of the Clones clip. We see, I don't know, we see Kamino. It actually looked like Kamino, like, I don't know, like maybe it's his memory of the last time he was at Kamino or something like that.
I mean, it feels like it's pulled it from the scene where like Obi-Wan's there and it's raining and stuff. So
yeah, well, yeah, I guess that'd maybe be his last memory, and I guess he never returned. So, I'm like, I'm all about that. If you want to give me more flashbacks to,
if you're going to go do flashbacks, do all flashbacks. Just jump all over the place.
I'm way more interested in seeing him as a kid. And of course, they've covered some of this in Clone Wars, but like, there's lots more you can insert stuff freely. Like, it's not like that whole show focused on him, obviously. So go crazy there. Have some stuff there, especially for an audience who's coming into this who probably haven't watched that. It would help to do a flashback to him as a kid. I think that would work. But man, if you want to do some more flashbacks to Kamino and you want to get him to, you can have, I guess, another kid play him as a kid, and then Morrison can play Django. Yeah, like it's like just do that. Yeah, because I'm like, well, you've already shown us a clip, so surely the floodgates are now fine. Like,
although if they were going to do that, why would they show the actual kid from Attack of the Clones? And why wouldn't they just recast with whoever they've recast it?
Well, I mean, unless they get permission and they're going to do the weird CGI face bullshit thing.
Yeah, they're going to bring him back to play
him as a kid and then just de-age him.
Yep.
I wonder what that kid... I actually don't know. Like, do you reckon that kid's...
I don't know if he's still acting. He's in that, he is in that Boba Fett documentary thing on Disney+.
What, like, current age?
You know, the one that came out, like, on Disney Plus Day?
Yeah, but, like, he's in that, like, now, talking about the role or something like that.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks, Dollar, Theo, Captain Typho, Watto... Boba Fett, here we go. Daniel Logan, 1987 he was born. It says here...
So it'd be like 34.
Well, he voiced Boba Fett in the Clone Wars, I didn't actually realise. But there you go. Didn't even know that. Fake fan over here.
Fake fan.
Fake fan. So he did voice... So he has returned and played him, and I mean, he's still been in a couple classic things like Sharknado 4, The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Recently.
Seminal.
But, so yeah, I mean, do what you want, but, yeah, that's some of the flashbacky stuff, I guess. Was there anything else amongst all that you want to talk about other than how fucked up his skin looks? But
yeah, very fucked up. Interesting. I guess that's how they all survive on Tatooine. There's just so happens to be these water-filled pumpkins all over the place.
I was trying to think about this. Are they, in my mind, and I don't know the full science of it because it's a fancy show, so I don't really need to understand, but I actually took it as they're burying these and they're getting water somehow, and that's where they know roughly to dig.
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that.
Or because that makes a lot more sense than these pots just magically forming. You know what I mean? Like, I can't give you an answer to how the water comes, but if they were burying them and they know that water comes to these places for some reason, that would make sense.
No, that would make sense. Like the moisture or whatever gets trapped through the sand or whatever.
Well, moisture farmers, right?
Yeah. It's like a smaller degree.
Yeah. Because I actually don't know, and maybe they've explained it in a book or something that I've never read, but or some really weird visual dictionary sort of thing. But like, it's one of those throw out things, of course, in the first one. You know, moisture farmer.
Come on, John Favreau, give us the farming series that we all want.
We'll see it in the Obi-Wan series. They're on a sand planet, and there's a moisture farmer, which I'm pretty sure George Lucas was like, it's just funny. That's a job title. Like, I don't need to think too much about it. But if that's what people do on the planet, the idea that they then are doing miniature versions of that to get water, or they're doing again, coming back to what they have been doing with these, like sort of exploring the Tusken Raiders cultural as a more of like First Nations type thing, or however you want to put it. They're doing it like sort of the way their ancestors, like to a degree, I guess, with these burials, and then you've got the off-worlders who have come in and they've brought the big technology to then farm the water to an up-to degree. And maybe I'm going down a deep rabbit hole nearly with this, but it is sort of interesting. They could take the show in this direction at any point, really. But it's like, if you want to go really deep down that plot thread, then you could be like, well, maybe back in the day when the Tusken Raiders were like the only people on Tatooine other than, you know, other creatures, alien life forms or creatures or whatever. Maybe there was more moisture under the sand, and they used to get more. Then the off-worlder humans or whatever, they come in, they bring their big machines and stuff, and they begin farming so much that it actually makes them get less from there. Yeah.
Because it's also interesting that they show that like mugging section in the flashback. And first I'm like, oh, they must be stealing like petrol or something. But now I think back, it's like, oh, they were just stealing water.
Makes sense. Water is a
very important resource.
Important resource to survive, yeah.
Listen, this is a series about population control and climate change.
You know, that of a random thought I had during all these well, no, not just the flashbacks, the entire show, but I was like, holy fuck, am I going to be sick of Tatooine by the end of next year?
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously,
we have to go back, Dylan.
It's fucking. There's only one episode of this in 2021. Obviously, the next 6 episodes are in 2022, so it'll very much feel like a 2022 series. And then you're going to have Obi-Wan next year, unless he leaves that planet, which, you know, could be a possibility. But we know a lot of it's going to be on Tatooine. It's just like, oh, my some God. Of it,
yeah. Okay. You know where Andor was born?
It better not be fucking Tatooine. He's like, oh, we got to stop off at this planet. All right, the current day stuff, of which we get very little. Pretty much, I guess the main things is that you have the whole, you know, sitting on the throne, getting the
tributes,
which mostly goes fine. He gets some Gamorrean guards back. He gets what looked like Wookiee fur delivered to him.
Oof.
But then the mayor's person comes in and basically says, "Fuck you! You're supposed to give tribute to the mayor." So obviously that's going to be a big plot point going forward. I feel, with the whole mayor and the disrespect for Boba there, and also Boba's continued push to want to rule by, I guess,
fear,
through respect, as he says, not through fear. Yeah, instead of fear. So how he goes about doing that without falling down into, I guess, the same trappings of his predecessors is going to be, I think, a plot point going forward. So it is in the trailers, and I think when we talked about it, we see that you see that shot of the city, or whatever you want to call it. I guess it's the city, yeah. And they're like, Mos Espa is what it is, which is that is like the place from A New Hope. It's the famous, you know, it's the city.
Yeah.
But for some, I remember talking about the trailer and being like, I don't think it is because it doesn't look anything like it, which is fine that I was wrong, because I guess also we haven't seen it for ages, so like it doesn't need to look like it did in episode 4. So that's fine. But the big interesting thing is when they get to presumably what is Mos Eisley. Because now it looks like fucking Las Vegas up in that bitch.
Yeah.
And apparently Max Rebo survived, which is the little blue musician. And I say survived because he was on Jabba the Hutt's barrage, whatever you call it. He was on that when it went down. But he's playing music. The Max Rebo band, full effect.
Yep.
Whatever. I already saw a meme about it. I looked on, we're recording this pretty much straight after I watched it, but I quickly went on Twitter. I typed in Max Rebo to see I wasn't the only person
who saw it,
like going insane sort of thing. First thing I see is someone created a meme where it's the Poe Dameron somehow Palpatine has returned, but it's just somehow Max Rebo has returned or something like that. Was the first thing I saw. So I was like, well done. That's a good joke. Good job, everyone. And then they get attacked by someone amongst here. We never really find out who they are. That's the next episode thing because obviously Fennec captures one. And then the only other thing of note amongst all of this, there was something else. Oh, no, sorry. Just to skip back 2 seconds, in the flashbacky stuff, when they're like watching those people at the house, I thought that was interesting. And I feel like maybe that's a thing to come back to. But, you know, obviously they're some form of like gang and they spray paint something. They spray paint something that looked almost like I don't know, it's like the innards of a Mando symbol, but I don't know. It looks similar. But I just couldn't fully put my finger on it. But I feel like surely that has to come back to be something. But yeah, and then in the current day, present day, yeah, it's basically just that action scene, more or less.
Yep.
You get
Boba's doing the rounds.
Yeah,
he's getting paid. Jennifer Beal plays from Flashdance and stuff. Plays the Twilight.
That was one of the casting things that went around, I think, because she's in the trailer. You see a close up of her in the trailer and everything. Like, and everyone's like, "Oh, what if she'll play a major character?" Don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, what do you make of all the current day stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's the most action, most action heavy part of the episode. You know, it's pretty much like one massive fight of like, you know, Boba getting his ass kicked because he's old and outnumbered. And they definitely wouldn't have lost if the guards hadn't come from nowhere. Where were they this entire time?
That's a good question. Maybe they snuck back in for that hose down.
Like, listen, we're loyal, but it's been a while since we had a hose down.
They're like, how dare you not let us get one of those? We've been captured, sitting in a cell. Let us get hosed down.
Listen, I'm looking forward to seeing them going around all season.
You reckon they're going to be around all season? They're not.
I think so. Yeah,
they've earned the respect.
Good teammates. Like, you know, they took them out. Several dead. You know, and again, we got a good showcase of like Fennec Shan's abilities. Parkour. Totally cut them off. Almost impossible.
Fuck them up.
Yeah. And, you know, only need to bring one of them back alive.
Boom. Spotted that other dude off the side of the building.
It didn't seem like it was very high if she, like, scaled the building, but, yeah.
It's true.
He probably just, paralyzed. It's fine.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool fight scene with her. Or, I guess the parkour stuff was pretty cool. The actual fight scene, I was like, like, it was, like, sort of roughly edited together. It was, like, sort of chaotic energy. It didn't really do much for me. Although when they had all the vibro shields surround them and stuff like that, I was like, sweep the leg. You know what I mean?
They don't.
Tell me I'm wrong. Sweep the leg.
They don't have the Karate Kid in Star Wars universe. That's the problem.
But they're literally just holding your head. I'm like, come on.
He's old. He can't get his knees down that far.
Well, she should have.
Yeah.
She's the fighter. Come on. Yeah. Look at that shit. I was like, come on. I'm already finding plot holes in this show. Come on, plot holes. Yeah, it was alright. So, yeah. I don't know. was fine. All that stuff was like very much like very minimal. As I said, I reckon it was like 70-30. Very much like, oh, here's a little bit. And then I can't even go into episode 2 going, oh, it's fine because we'll get so much more present day stuff. I feel like I'm still going to get possibly the same spread.
We might be getting the same spread all season.
Yeah.
For all we know.
We could be getting the same spread all season. Over 70% shows flashbacks and a tiny bit. Yeah, I don't know. Also, because we don't know if this is supposed to be like a one-off season or they're actually treating it like something they're happy to commit several seasons. So you don't know how much of a rush they are to really get to telling their story and not just focused on.
That's why I was also surprised. I'm like, oh wow, they're getting through all this. They must be pretty sure that this must be one season if they're doing all this flashback stuff at the start. Getting it out of the way at the start, yeah.
We're gonna 7 episodes though, so it's a weird number. Just
yeah.
Yeah. We'll wrapping up. What do you reckon we're in for this season, or what do you reckon?
More flashbacks.
Yeah.
Hopefully a little bit more of an even spread. I think next episode. Sure we've understand. He assimilated with all the Tusken Raiders and that kind of stuff. Give us a little bit more of the insight what's happening in the current day and that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I'd say I'm about the same. I'm going to be interested to see if people are annoyed about this episode later, because I know in the lead up, I kept seeing people over the last couple of days.
They've been hyping it up a lot over the last.
Really, well, I don't feel like Star Wars Twitter account has been other than just like general promotion. Like they haven't been like, get ready for the next best Star Wars thing. Your mind's going to be blown. They've just been like generally promoting it, which is their job, hey, the Book of Boba Fett starts soon, which is fine. I feel like though I've seen like fan accounts or like fan websites, or pop culture websites, doing stuff like, man, and I've seen a lot of these polls. The first episode of Mandalorian season 1 or 2 both had like a big reveal at the end. What big reveal is going to happen at the end of this episode? But nothing. So
he got to drink water. I think that's a pretty big reveal.
That was a pretty big reveal, actually. He was well hydrated. Well, you should all be. It's a lesson, really. Everyone's sitting at home.
Each episode
drink your water.
Each episode will have something to take away from it.
Next episode, he has an apple. Brushes his teeth at episode 3. Yeah. It's fine. It's all secret. It's all secret messaging.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say, the aesthetics from The Mandalorian very much there. Like even the score to the episode, it just feels like they dropped the Mandalorian score down a couple octaves.
Well, apparently Ludwig did like the theme, but then someone else did that.
Yeah, I did. Someone else is credited with the score, but
yeah. So someone else is doing the score. Ludwig's still on board for what I presume is the opening
Boba
theme
Fett
song,
yeah,
and then the credit theme Boba Fett music, which is fine because both were bangers. Can't really tell you how much I remember from during the episode, but that's fine. You don't need to always remember music for it to be good. The other thing I'll say is I'm glad that they've kept the concept art credit scenes.
Yeah,
that's
I get a feeling that might be a running thing through all
Star Wars shows now.
Yeah,
I'd hope so. I hope it's not just ones Jon Favreau's involved with. I hope it carries through to Obi-Wan and stuff, because it's just a cool way to do credits.
Yeah,
I feel cool way to.
Yeah, you make all this concept art, you might as well just showcase it.
Sometimes they say they don't like to. You don't want to show something that could be an idea they use, or like potentially something that like got moved to another episode.
But these are specifically from the episode,
or whatever. Yeah,
these are just moments from the episode. So I mean, it's
but you only need 5-6 screens. Like I'm sure you can find 5 or 6 out of the however many were created for each episode to share within the credits. Like, come on, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know, previously they'd kept stuff out of the Force Awakens art book, even because they were not sure if it would come back around by the end of the trilogy, sort of thing. This is a thing, so
that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us for the first episode of the podcast of Boba Fett. Please subscribe to Holocron Entries, the podcast feed you're listening to now, for all our other Star Wars shows, including The Mandalorians, The Very Bad Batch, and much more Star Wars content. Follow us on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Join our Discord to talk to us about Star Wars and other things. explosionnetwork.com/Discord. And if you like this and you'd like to tell us why, head on over to explosionnetwork.com/support to donate as little as $1 or set up a monthly recurring payment to support the show. Until next week, I haven't thought of a fucking key quote thing. I literally this morning was like, when I was doing the notes for this, I'm like, what's a cool Boba Fett?
There are no cool
quote. He has like a couple things he said during the franchise. It's like, I need him alive, or like this sort of shit. I'm like, not really a good podcast sign off. None of these really work. I need to find something. There's nothing in this first episode that
just
really
like The Mandalorian, he does not talk at all this episode.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes is silent, which I actually kind of like. The very cowboy vibe, Western vibe of like no one talking. I'll award that back.
Also, he just burns his way out of the Sarlacc pit, apparently.
Yeah, it's fine.
It doesn't go out the mouth, goes out like the side.
Goes out the anus. Until next week, stay hydrated.